A very good evening and a warm welcome, Sukihoto, to one and all. Welcome to the Buddhist Mahavira's Facebook live page. And this evening here we have with us Bante, or rather Ayasma Ariyadhammika from the Sasanaraka mission in Taiping, who actually will be conducting a first time online quiz for us, interactive Dhamma quiz here at the Buddhist Mahavira's Facebook page live in the for the Dhammadana series. Good evening, Bante.
Good evening, Leslie. Thank you much.
Welcome,
Thank you very much for the
welcome,
kind introduction.
welcome to the Buddhist Mahavira's Facebook page. So our Bante here has been with us for the first time here at the Buddhist Mahavira's Dhammadana series. For those of you who don't know much about him, let me just read a profile of Bante quickly. Venerable Ariyadhammika is an Austrian-born Thera or elder monk, Buddhist monk. Now, as a layman, he studied economics and music at the University of Graz in Austria. His interest in Buddhism was sparked at the age of 14 when he first encountered the Buddha's teachings in a local library. 10 years later, at the age of 24, he started to attend meditation courses at the Yubakin tradition in Austria, followed by his own sutta studies. In 2005, at the age of 28, he decided to become a Buddhist monk, and he left Austria and went to the Pa Auk Forest Monastery in Myanmar. He was ordained on July 14th in 2005 with Pa Auk Sayadaw as his preceptor and meditation teacher, and he spent 5 years practicing in the forests of Pa Auk, maintaining a very simple lifestyle. He dedicated himself to the practice of anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, and later on also to other meditation methods. After 5 years at Pa Auk, he went to seek out other teachers in Myanmar and was initiated into different meditation techniques. A growing interest in the lifestyle of the Thai forest tradition brought him to Thailand in the year 2010, where he stayed for the next 3 years. He spent the initial period undergoing the traditional training of a Thai forest monk at the International Branch Monastery of the Ajahn Chah lineage, Wat Pa Nanchat. In 2013, was spent by wandering throughout Thailand, seeking out suitable places for meditation and Dhamma studies, mostly at Ajahn Chah's branch monasteries and at forest monasteries belonging to the Dhammayuttika Nikaya. He then returned to Austria after being a monk for almost 8 years and observed his first Vasa there at a caravan near his parents' home in Austria. He then returned to Asia and stayed in Malaysia from 2013 to 2015, spending time at the Sasanaraka Buddhist Sanctuary, also studying Pali, suttas, and also the Vinaya under the guidance of Venerable Aggacitta Mahathera at the Mahathera's Hermitage, Mulla Vihara. The Mahathera has since then become one of Venerable Ariyadhammika's most influential and respected teachers. In 2015, he spent a year at the Na Uyana Arayana Senasayana, Sri Lanka, where he had time for his own meditation practice and also gave regular Dhamma lectures and meditation instructions to foreign monks and lay practitioners. In 2016, to fulfill an earlier request from Venerable Aggacitta to ordain 2 Western monks and to become their preceptor, he did that, and after some initial hesitation, following a period of preparation, Venerable Ariyadhammika agreed to take up the responsibility and subsequently returned with them to Sri Lanka in 2016 and observed the Vasa there. He stayed in Sri Lanka till the Vasa of 2017 and ordained another 2 other monks. In 2018, Venerable Ariyadhammika eventually felt ready to settle long-term and would make himself available for taking up a very formal position, which he is dedicated to offer support and guidance to fellow monastics. He accepted the invitation to take over the role of Sanghanayaka at the SBS Monks Training Center in Taiping. His main interests these days are meditation from the perspective of early Buddhism, the Pali scriptures and their parallels, Dhamma studies from the perspective of early Buddhism, and the provision of guidance and training to like-minded monastics. I would now like to hand over the stage to Bante to conduct this evening's interactive quiz. So, Bante, would you kindly?
Okay, thank you very much, Leslie, for the somewhat long introduction. We are short in time. We don't have so much time to go through my whole life bio from birth until old age, sickness. Okay, eventually we make it for the Dhamma quiz. And I know that's why many of you are here today. I know also that some of you may ask yourselves, why a Dhamma quiz? Well, let me ask you a question first. Have you sometimes been misunderstood or misrepresented by another person? So you say one thing and the people understand something differently, or you retell what you said completely differently? If yes, if this has happened to you also, don't worry. This even happened to the Buddha and still happens to him, to the Buddha himself. So we are all in good company with that we are sometimes misunderstood. Especially nowadays, over the internet, Facebook, WhatsApp, many platforms. There are many news in circulation, isn't it? Also, fake news are in circulation about COVID-19, politics, elections, isn't it? In the same way, also, we find very useful things online, like quotes from the Buddha, spiritual teachings. But interestingly, not all quotes that I see online and where I see the name the Buddha underneath, they are not really all from the Buddha. So there's not only fake news, there's also fake Buddha quotes. So some sayings, they sound nice and even quite wise, but not all of them are from the Buddha. Other people also have wisdom and have formulated very nice sayings, but sometimes they're falsely or wrongly attributed to the Buddha. And I think in most cases, this actually happens with innocent intention, not maliciously. But still, for us Buddhists, if you want to know what did the Buddha teach, it is helpful to know what did he really teach, and not only what did my neighbor or somebody in New Orleans or New Jersey or in Mexico write himself and then writes the Buddha underneath. And then that's why we have nowadays so many fake quotes. So since many years now, so many fake Buddha quotes circulating online. A whole website was started, not by me, by somebody else, dedicated towards identifying these wrong Buddha quotes and also finding real Buddha quotes. And the website is termed very properly, it's called fake Buddha quotes.org, I think. I would have to look it up, but you can Google it and you would find. No need to Google now, we'll come to that. So this website has the mission to identify real quotes from the Buddha, but also point out fake ones. And you will soon see it's actually not so easy to make this distinction, to really know, is this from the Buddha or is it from somebody else? But somehow it's fun to think about it and to try to find out. So for this reason, and also because we need to be more aware in this time of technology, not to believe everything that we see online, especially through social media. The same applies to the Buddha's teachings, where we make an effort to identify the real teaching from the not so real teachings. So what I've done is I've prepared 8 quotes from the Buddha. 8 quotes, well, maybe not all 8 from the Buddha. 8 quotes that are often attributed to the Buddha. Some of them are real, but some of them are not. And it will be your job to find out which ones are the ones that are really from the Buddha and which ones are fake. All right, are you ready? We will use Slido as a secondary device. So for you to really be able to actively participate, it would be helpful. For example, if you watch what you're hearing right now on your phone, you would need a second device. It could be a laptop or computer or a second phone where you log into Slido and actively participate. And then you can even get a score, quite nice. Sure, you can also only listen, but then it's not so not so entertaining for you. So if you have a second device or on the computer, on a second browser tab that you can make open, then it's very easy to participate actively. It's up to you, of course. Also, of course, no cheating, no cheating with Professor Google. So try to answer as good as you can. There's not much time anyway. And also there's no need to post the results or the answers on Facebook or anywhere, because I will give the answers anyway a few seconds later. Okay? So I invite you all to actively participate, and you can test your knowledge and understanding of the Buddha's teachings in this way. So since we're all ready, I would say, let's get started with the first quiz question. First question. Happiness is not having a lot. Happiness is about giving a lot. It's not about having a lot, but about giving. What do you think? Did the Buddha say this or not? Is this correct or fake? I give you some time to think. So now is the time to take out your phone or your laptop, the second device, and key in the answer, A or B. And then you just wait a little bit, and in a moment, we will show the results. So you don't see the results straight away, but then when I give the okay, we will move forward together. Yeah, you can see the answers coming in, very good. Give you a little bit more time because it's the first question. Happiness is not about having a lot. Happiness is about giving a lot. Sounds good. But the question is it from the Buddha? Okay, give you a few more seconds. Not much longer. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let us see how you have voted. Before we see the results, let us see the voting results. 59% have answered, this is really from the Buddha. The Buddha said this. But 41% have decided, no, maybe not from the Buddha. Oh, so half almost. So not everybody will be correct with this answer. So let us see what is the correct answer. Was it from the Buddha or not? Correct answer is answer B. It's not from the Buddha. Sorry. In fact, this quote is often found on products like cards or even cases of iPhones or T-shirts. And often with the quote, the Buddha. And there is one verse where the Buddha says something a little bit similar, but not the same. The closest you can find in the Buddhist scriptures is this quote. What has been given bears fruit as pleasure. So what has been given results in pleasure. What isn't given does not. Thieves take it away, or kings. It gets burned by fire or lost. So here we see a little bit, yes, the result of giving is pleasure, well-being, and one can feel well and good about being generous. But it's not quite the same as the quote we had at the beginning. Happiness is not having a lot. Happiness is about giving a lot. And also there's another verse, that a very famous one, which is said to have been uttered by the Buddha himself when he talked about the benefits of giving food. Now, this is a real quote. The Buddha says, "The prudent person giving life, strength, beauty, and quick-wittedness, the wise person, a giver of happiness, attains happiness himself." So this quote relates to a person who is generous, supports others, can be the Sangha, but also each other, and the person gets life, long life, strength, beauty, and happiness in return as the karmic result. But neither of these quotes say that happiness is not having a lot, it's about giving a lot. There's more, a quote actually from Jackson Brown, who wrote a life little instruction book. And this is where this quote might actually come from. He says that remember that the happiest people are not those getting more, but those giving more. But the sentiment of the quote, which is more or less another way of saying it's better to give than to receive, it's quite common. I do remember also, it's called anusati, a reflection or a recollection, that the Buddha often encourages the monks or also lay practitioners. For example, after having done a virtuous deed or a wholesome deed or an act of generosity, you can think back about that and reflect about it. And you can actually rejoice in your own wholesome action. And it's a good reason to be happy about. So a sense of gladness arises, pamocca in body. And from this pamocca can come piti, rapture, and tranquility, and happiness, and concentration. So there's a sequence that starts with reflecting on one's own generosity. And that can lead to happiness, gladness, and even concentration. So yes, we have this principle also in the Buddha's teaching, but the quote itself was not from the Buddha. And just to linger a little bit on this last point, this practice of recollecting your good deeds is also a very nice way to start the meditation. The first few minutes, okay, sit down, and then you recollect the good deeds you have done. And in this way, the mind gets in a very calm and happy and joyful state. And a sense of well-being arises from within. And then you direct the mind to your meditation object. It can be the breath, or loving kindness, whatever it is. And the mind is already cheerful, happy, and it's much easier, much nicer to attain samadhi or even wisdom compared to just sitting down and straight going into it. So happiness is very important. It's a precursor for samadhi, the Buddha says in Anguttara Nikaya. Okay, so this was the first question. That was the easy one, From now it's only going to be more and more difficult. Now let's see. Let's move on to the second question. If you didn't get the first one right, no worries. Look at the second one. Again, the same question. Is it from the Buddha or not? The second question is this. Don't keep searching for the truth. Just let go of your opinions. Don't keep searching for the truth. Just let go of your opinions. So, because all your opinions and views may be holding you back from the truth, so you can't find it. Is this from the Buddha? Yes or no? Answer A, real, it's really from the Buddha. Or answer B, it's fake. What do you think? Is it really from the Buddha? Don't keep searching for the truth. Just let go of your opinions. Or was it from somebody else? Okay, so we come to an end of our voting. Let us see the results, how you have voted. I'm curious now. What were your voting results? Oh, again, a head-to-head race. Real 44%, fake 56%. Wow. 44% say it, the Buddha says it. Let us see whether you're right or not. What's the correct answer? Correct answer is B. It's also a fake Buddha quote. It's not from the Buddha. Answer B. This quote is often attributed to the Buddha, sometimes also to unknown, because even people who quote it, they also sometimes don't know. Sometimes it says the Buddha, sometimes it says unknown, and occasionally to Zheng Zan, well, Zheng Chan, who died in 606, not long ago. And the Buddha did have a lot to say about letting go, or about not clinging to opinions. The term that was used by him usually was not so much about let go of about your opinions. What he would say often is the Pali word is ditti. Let go of your views, and especially wrong views. In the Jula Sihanada Sutta, the Buddha says, with the fading away of ignorance and arising of true knowledge, he no longer clings to sensual pleasures, to sense pleasures, also no longer clings to views, no longer clings to rules and rituals, and no longer clings to a doctrine of self. So here we have a quote where the Buddha just speak out about not clinging to views. And then in another sutta, the Saleka Sutta, it's also pointed out that the abandoning of attachment to views is not easy, or all at once. And the Buddha often pointed out that there's a need to renounce wrong views and to embrace right views. So it's not only about getting rid of views, but about substituting perspectives that are not beneficial with those that are helpful and beneficial and correct in accordance with reality. In fact, one of the most famous similes that we find is the one found in the Alagadupama Sutta, the simile of the raft. I'm sure many of you know about this one, where a raft is compared to, you use a raft to cross over a stream or a river. But once you have crossed over, you put it aside. You don't attach. You don't cling and carry it with you wherever you go on the land. No, you use it only for crossing over. So likewise, the views, even the right view, is not to be attached or clung to. So even right view, we hold it lightly. Doesn't mean you get rid of it completely, but you don't attach to it, you don't quarrel, you don't identify with it. That's the important point. So in this way, one overcomes the wrong views and one develops the right understandings. And the Arya, even a stream enter, is called a ditti sampanno, somebody who has attained to a view, to ditti. But again, it here means right view, not wrong view, of course. And even an arahant still has right view about what is wholesome, what is unwholesome. He understands the Four Noble Truth. That's the definition of right view. So even an arahant has this kind of view and perspective. And he has also put it into practice in his own life, of course. But he doesn't identify with it, doesn't cling to it, and can hold it lightly. And that's the difference. Okay. 2 questions are over. We have altogether 8 questions, so we have 6 more to come. Let us have a look at the next question. Question number 3. Radiate boundless, love, or you could say a radiate boundless love towards the entire world. Is this an instruction from the Buddha to the monks and to other people? Radiate boundless love towards the entire world. Is this the Buddha's teaching? It definitely sounds nice. But it's up to you to decide. So please take out your phones again or on your laptop and try to actively answer the question if you can. Well, even if you don't know, it's a 50-50 chance, isn't it? You can just try it out. And sometimes you're lucky, just win the lottery of the Dhamma quiz. And who knows, maybe you could win a prize. Radiate boundless love towards the entire world. Who said that? Okay, let us see how you have voted. Is it real or fake? Can we see the voting results? Yes, they're coming in. 71% say that's a real Buddha quote. And this time only 29% say no, it's not. This time the majority, I'm sorry to say, the majority is not always right, but in this case it is. So 71% were correct. This is a real quote from the Buddha. Answer A is correct. So the quote comes directly from the famous Karaniya Metta Sutta in the Sutta Nipata 1.8. And it's preceded by a very nice phrase, actually. I'm sure many of you have heard about this one, where the Buddha says, "Let none, through anger or ill will, wish harm upon another. Just as a mother protects with her life, she protects her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world." This is the Metta Sutta. So the quote comes directly from the Metta Sutta. Maybe the translation sounded a bit unfamiliar. Often in the Buddhist scriptures, we translate the word metta as loving kindness, not as love necessarily, just to make this distinction between carnal love, where a lot of attachment, a man towards a woman, or a woman towards a man. It's usually not just well-wishing, but also a lot of attachment. This is not quite the same as the loving kindness that we are talking about. And loving kindness doesn't need to be bound up with attachment. And it's also not limited just to one person, maybe your spouse or your children, grandchildren. Loving kindness can become very broad and even universal, without making any distinctions between I like this person, I don't like him or her, or this is a neutral person. Loving kindness, when it's practiced well, encompasses all beings without distinction. Limitless, boundless, immeasurable. This is the meaning of the word aparimana. Without limit, without boundaries. It's a very beautiful quality that the Buddha often speaks about. And it's the ideal countermeasure against aversion or dislike or anger. Because loving kindness and anger cannot coexist in the mind in the same moment. So in the time when we have loving kindness, mind cannot be angry at the same time. So it is a countermeasure, almost like a medicine to overcome dislike, aversion, irritability, and these kind of states. Well, I'm happy to see that many of you have answered this question correctly. It seems your knowledge about metta is very good. I hope it's not only knowledge, not only book knowledge, but also knowledge that is being put into practice. And I definitely feel that both up here in Taiping with our helpers and volunteers coming to the monastery, supporting us, but also the Buddhist circle and community all over Malaysia. I can definitely feel a lot of metta, helpfulness, generosity. So, yeah, you can see these practices, what these teachings being put into practice by many of you. Okay, so you got this one right, most of you. Let's see the next question. Question number 4. Question number 4 is, change is never painful. Only the resistance to change is painful. Let me read it out again. Change itself, or change, is never painful, but the resistance to change is painful. If you fight against it, that is what makes things painful, not changing itself. Is this from the Buddha? I give you a bit of time to think about it. Okay. Time is running short, a few more seconds. Okay, I think this should be enough. Let us see how you have voted. You have to be quick. If it takes too long, you don't have enough time. Okay, so 55% have said, no, it's not from the Buddha, whereas 45% have said, yes, it is. It's interesting. Most results that are coming in from you, they're always 50-50. It seems like people are sitting there with stage playing dice, just guessing. That's funny. So 50% again, no clear majority. Well, this is a wonderful quote. And it sounds as if it could really be from the Buddha. But let us see the results. At the true answer, what is the true answer? Is answer B, not from the Buddha. So it sounds as if it could be from him, and it's actually true. What it says, the resistance to change makes things worse, but it's actually not from the Buddha. There's an American actress and singer and songwriter, Demi Lovato, and she included this quotation and put the label attributed it to the Buddha as the epigraph to one of the reflections in her book, Staying Strong. So in that book, she says, change is a part of life, and there's no way of getting around it. So accept that your life will be filled with all kinds of change. And even though it can sometimes feel uncomfortable, it's what builds our character and keeps us moving forward. And she also tells us then later, it's wise, then no likelihood that, most likely the quote comes from her. So then how about the Buddha? Certainly he did speak about change, no, quite a lot. Sabbe sankhara anicca. All conditioned things are impermanent, are changing. It's one of the key teachings of the Buddha. And recognizing change is also important in bringing about insight. It's also said that one who remains focused on the changing nature of all conditioned phenomena, ignorance is abandoned and clear knowledge arises, vicca. And the Buddha also speaks about pain. Also, sabbe sankhara dukkha, all conditioned things are unsatisfactory. Some translate it as painful, but it's not a good translation here. But there's another key teaching. And whenever things change and we want to hold on to it, not just things, but also people or experiences, and you want to keep those things going on and lasting for a long time, forever, well, most things don't last forever. So if we hold on to them, we will suffer. So the resistance to change creates dukkha. This is true. But the quote itself is not from the Buddha. In fact, to say that change is never painful, I don't agree with that also. Like the quote said, if you remember, change is never painful, only the resistance to change is painful. Mm, because if something changes from pleasant to unpleasant, this change is perceived by the mind as painful, as unpleasant. Yeah? Or even if it changes from something nice, like the climate in a room feels nice, but then it's becoming a bit too hot. Or maybe at first it was nice and now it's more neutral. But first it was nice and cooling during a hot day. Even if it's neutral, it doesn't feel pleasant anymore. And there's already a sense of dukkha there. But then it's not always the case that everything that changes is painful also. In fact, change can be quite pleasant, isn't it? If you have a sickness, and then after many days or weeks being sick, hopefully not from COVID-19, hopefully something else, whatever it is, you overcome your sickness and you feel better. The body changes and more well-being arises. So this kind of change is not perceived as unpleasant. So it's not correct to say that change is always a bad thing. In fact, we need change, otherwise everything would be stagnant and there would be no progress in any direction. Again, this quote was not from the Buddha. That was number 4. Now I am curious now to see and to find out how many answers have some of you given correctly and how many answers did we not get correctly. We have a small leadership board. We can have a look at that. It's not yet the final result. Only 4 questions have been asked. We have 4 more, but we might already have a leader. Let us have a look at the leadership board. Oh, wow. Many people here getting all answers correct, it seems. Doreen Lim, 4 out of 4 correct. SC. Bante Sujiva. Don't know whether it's whenever Sujiva or some Sujiva. Peter. And there's a year on Lim. Oh, and there could be more, that have 4 answers correct out of 4. But in the leaderboard, we will see only those who have given the answer the quickest. So the time also counts if you want to be in front of the leadership board. So if there are multiple people who all have the same answer or they all have it correct, then the time counts. Otherwise, the count time is not so important. First and most importantly is whether the answer was correct. Oh, interesting. I don't know all of you here. I know 1 or 2 actually. I'm just thinking whether it's more old-timers or more youngsters who are in front, or more men or more women. Could be quite balanced actually. Or more lady or more monastics. Most time with these Dhamma quizzes, often it's the women who are leading or winning the quizzes. I noticed that already. And some monks say, yeah, no surprise, because every day in the morning, when you look around, when the people come for dana, well, it's almost 90%, it's always women coming, and only a few men find between. So no wonder they hear the Dhamma so often, and therefore you understand the Dhamma better. And they don't know what the men are doing. Yeah, of course they will say they're going to work, right? Okay, let's believe that for a moment. Anyway, it's not yet the end of the quiz, and it's still tight. So let us see. There's more opportunities. There's a few more questions. We have a bit more time. We can do a bit, and hopefully we can make it through all 8 questions altogether. Okay, let us have a look at the next question. Question number 5. Be patient Everything comes to you in the right moment. Be patient, have khanti. Everything comes to you in the right moment. Don't have to rush things. Things that are here have meaning. If you're supposed to get something, it will be here for you. If not, it's not meant to be here for you. So is this teaching from the Buddha or not? And it's often found as a quote, that's for sure. Be patient. Everything comes to you in the right moment. Okay, I think enough time. Let me see the results. How many of us were thinking that this is a real quote? Oh, not so many. Most of us are thinking it's not from the Buddha. Majority. Last time the majority, was it right? Majority is not always right. But this time, I think the majority is right. Let us see the correct answer. Yeah, it's a fake quote. It's not from the Buddha. This quote is also sometimes found as saying, everything comes to you in the right moment, be patient, or at the right moment. However you arrange these sentences, they are not the Buddha's words. But it's all over the internet. They're attributed to the Buddha and often quoted as the Buddha's quote. Actually, we have no idea where this quote comes from. They have been found in some recently published books, but also without source and reference. And sometimes they're attributed to the Buddha, sometimes not. But there's some problems with this quote, actually. Because it sounds a little bit as if, life provides you with the right thing whenever you need it. And many of us have heard about this idea, didn't we? But I'm not so sure about this. Really? Does life really always provide us with whatever we need? How about people in Syria just recently? Does it really provide them with whatever they need? So many people suffering, children suffering from sicknesses. It doesn't seem as if life always provides whatever we need. It's more like there is no master plan for life. There's causes and effects, causes and conditions. And things happen for reasons, that's true. Because there are causes, there will be results. But sometimes we even don't know the reason. So there are reasons, but to say that there's a plan and things happen always at the right time, that is not the case. And it's also not the teaching of the Buddha in any way. If that were the case, that things would always happen at the right time, who would be overwhelmed by stress from external life situations if everything comes just right always? We would have no stress. Sometimes people say, but I have learned so much. The sickness, even the sickness came just at the right time. I learned from it. I learned to deal with it. And some people grow a lot from those challenges. And this is possible, yes. But it's not because anything outside made you grow. It's because your own wisdom faculty, your own discernment, that you make use of these challenges and try to understand them and develop the mind in ways that helps to cope with them. But it's not because life provides us with the right lesson at the right time, like a teacher, like a supreme teacher who sends you the right lesson at the right time. It would be nice, I agree, but doesn't seem to be the case. Really, the universe just is. It doesn't care about us. It follows its laws of nature, but it doesn't teach us anything actively. The law of gravity, the law of karma, cause and effect. Yeah, these are laws of nature that we can observe. but they are not teaching us anything. Actually, we ourselves, if we use our wisdom faculty, we can understand things. Or scientists, by observing, testing, can also learn things about the universe. But it's not because the universe is teaching us anything. So we can learn without a teacher, so to speak. So yes, I'm very happy that majority of you have got the right answer here with this question. Maybe the questions are a bit too easy, huh? Let us see the next one. Let us move on to the next question. What you think that you become. Is this from the Buddha or not? Real or fake? Okay. Okay. Let us see the voting results. What did the majority think this time around? Is it real or fake? Oh, 67%, a clear lead for that is a real quote from the Buddha. But there are also some skeptics among us. I think some would even say, even the real teaching of the Buddha, they will also say, no, it's not from the Buddha. So 33% have said, no, it's not from the Buddha. But the majority, 67%, say it is from the Buddha. Well, as I said earlier, sometimes the majority is right, sometimes it's not. But in this case, it's not. Correct answer is answer B. The mind is everything. What you think you become is not exactly from the Buddha. Answer B is the correct answer here. Now, it has some resemblance, I would admit. There is some resemblance with real teachings from the Buddha. And this is probably also why some of us here thought this is probably from the Buddha. And the closest you can find probably in the suttas is a passage in Majjhima Nikaya number 19, where it said that whatever a monk frequently thinks and ponders about, that will become the inclination of his mind or a habit. But this is still not the same as to say the mind is everything what you think you become. It only says these thought and thinking patterns will become your standard thinking patterns. So it becomes the inclination of the mind to think more along the same lines. Because if you say what you think you become, oh, that's very dangerous, no? Because if you think about Donald Trump, you become Donald Trump. Or you become the next president of America, you think about Donald Trump. No, it's not like that. You can think about him the whole day. Don't, but if you want, you can. But it doesn't mean just because we think about something, that is what we become. It depends also how we think about it. But there's no law of nature. Just think about something and then you become it. But I know that this idea is very common. And not long ago, one yogi here in SPS, Monk Training Center, he said to me, he's a bit afraid of this one practice that we monks like to do, which is this contemplation, not only about impermanence, but contemplation about our own mortality, about the possibility of death. We don't know how long we are going to live. And the Buddha often recommends that as a practice to arouse urgency and earnesty and energy towards one's practice. But then when he heard about this practice, he said, well, if you think about death all the time, am I going to die? I mean, of course, you're going to die. Everybody's going to die at some point. But it doesn't mean that thinking about it will cause a premature death. In fact, if that were the case, many of us would not be here anymore. Many of the monks that you know from Dhamma talks, those earnest, sincere practitioners, they've spent hours and hours thinking and contemplating about their own mortality, the mortality of others, and they're still living happy lives, healthy lives, and you don't become grim or depressed on account of that. Quite the opposite. So it's not the case that what you think about that you become. However, there's something interesting that happens in the mind, in the brain especially, in that thinking patterns or thoughts or emotions that we frequently entertain, they become physically stronger. As you might know, whenever there's a neural activity, then synapses are firing and signaling to each other, communicating. And synapses that fire become physically better connected and stronger. So next time a similar thought comes up or a similar memory, it's more easy for you to remember something because that synapse has been activated a few times already and is ready to connect and fire again. So in this way, it's quite interesting that even from a scientific point of view, the Buddha's 2,500-year-old statement that one frequently thinks about becomes the inclination of the mind that we can now prove with scientific means, where we know and we can see clearly that thoughts or memories that we frequently access and become even physically stronger and easier to access in the future. So this is from Majjhima Nikaya number 19. And if you understand that principle, also comes a sense of responsibility. Because, well, if you know what you frequently think becomes this thinking pattern and a habit, then it's probably good to put good food into our mind and not just junk food. The same with the body. We try to eat healthy food and not only junk food because the effect on the body will be different. So if you know what is junk food for the mind then? Well, if you read only novels that arouse a lot of strong emotions about greed or aversion or jealousy, or movies or things that are very violent, every time the mind thinks about it, that becomes a deeper and deeper habit and a pattern in the mind. And it becomes easier and easier for the mind to think the same thing in the future, in other situations. So this would be what I would call junk food for the mind. Advertisements, arousing desires, or video games, often what young boys play, is a lot of violence there. Also even media, news. Checking the news the whole day on Facebook or even on the television, catching up on the latest COVID-19 views. And they are designed, their whole enterprises who earn a living by making news and presenting them in a way that we get outraged and fearful and anxiety about. And this keeps us connected with that platform. We want to see more and more and more. And we have a lot of emotions there. But it's not good for our mind. So if you spend a whole day on social media, I'm sure you might have noticed some effects of that. Also, this quote that we had just now, it said at the beginning, the mind is everything. Now, this too is a bit problematic because it almost suggests as if it's just the mind. Everything happens only in the mind. There's no outer world. Some people have this view also. So everything is just mind created. There's one verse from the Dhammapada that is sometimes quoted or sometimes a bit misquoted in this context, the first verse. But even there, the Buddha doesn't say that the mind creates the world itself. but it's how you experience the world, whether you get pleasant or unpleasant experiences. Your previous actions and thoughts and karma have an influence on that. So if you act with a wholesome mind, we produce pleasant results for the future. If you act with unwholesome mind, that produces unpleasant results in the future. But it doesn't mean that the future is completely created only and everything around us only by the mind itself. This is not what the Buddha says. Like the mind is everything, or there's no external world, everything. Now, sure, for us to understand anything, we need the mind and the six senses. It's true that outside of the six senses, we have no way of understanding anything, what there is. And for us, the world is limited to the six senses and how the mind can understand it. And also how we perceive it depends very much on our mind. Okay, so again, a quote which was not from the Buddha. We have two more. Let's come to number 7 now. Quote number 7. Just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, even so the wise are not ever affected by praise or blame. So a rock is not shaken just because there's a wind blowing. Likewise, the wise people are not affected by praise or blame. They are firm, stable. Is this from the Buddha? What do you think? Okay. Let us see the results. I'm curious now how you have voted for this one. How many of us have thought it's a real quote, and how many think it's a fake quote? Wow. 91%. I have to wash my eyes. 91% think that this is a real quote from the Buddha. This would be quite a scandal if all of us are wrong, huh? And we see the answer already. It is a real quote. So this time the majority was right. It's really from the Buddha. We find it in the Dhammapada number 81. And actually there's also, in the Mangala Sutta, there's a similar quote on a similar theme, where it says, although in contact with the world, the mind remains unshaken, beyond all sorrow, spotless and secure. These are the highest blessings. So it's also in the Mangala Sutta, also in the Dhammapada, similarly. So yeah, this notion of firmness of the mind, even if it encounters adversities and some trouble, some difficulties. And as it says in this verse from the Dhammapada, and especially from the Mangala Sutta, there are these 8 worldly conditions, atta loka dhamma. What are they? Gain and loss, honor and dishonor, happiness and suffering, and then also praise and blame. These things come and go, and nobody is free from them. Sometimes good things happen, sometimes bad things happen. Even the Buddha couldn't escape from them. So how can we expect to be free from blame or from suffering? No? So instead, what we can do is we can make the mind firm, inwardly stable, not controlling the outer world and making everything perfect how we want it. It's impossible. Number one, it's impossible because we don't have full control over our environment. And number two, it's impossible that makes us happy because our own ideas of what we want, of what we need, change all the time. What you wanted yesterday, you might not want anymore today. Things that we thought that they're so important for us, We discover actually they're not. So Mangala Sutta also speaks about that. It's one of the highest blessings, the mind that is unshaken and firm and does not tremble like a rock. How is this a blessing? Blessing has different meanings, Blessing can be a lucky or auspicious sign or a good omen. But what the Mangala Sutta speaks about, these are blessings that we can do on ourselves. It's not something that you have to wait from outside to happen to you. For example, avoiding bad company, the Buddha says, is a great blessing. Or having a serene mind, tranquility is a great blessing. Or supporting family and friends is one of the greatest blessings. Or seeing seekers of the truth, or Aryas, is also a great blessing. Likewise, a mind that is stable, firm. So you understand already, it's not things that happen magically outside there. The Buddha uses the word mangala, but gives it a much deeper meaning. It's not something, not just a lucky sign, a blessing like that, or where somebody, a priest, can bless you somehow magically, or the monks. No, it's something that we have to do on our own, something that we can do on our own. And that is a great blessing. Looking after family and friends, concentrating the mind, acquiring wisdom. These are things that are truly beneficial to us, not just circumstances that happen from time to time. Okay. Well, this was now question number 7. I would say, since there's only one question left, let us see first the leadership board one more time, because we will soon have a winner or winners, who knows. So I want to know now who is leading currently in our quiz. Let's have a look at the leadership board. So we would need our technical support to provide us with the leadership board, and here it is. Okay, I can see new names have made it to the top. Oh no, Peter Yu was there already before. He still has 7 out of 7 correct. That's impressive so far. Barak, Doreen, SC. Everybody else trailing closely behind Peter with 6 out of 7 correct answers. And also the time matters, of course, how quick you were. And then there might be more than these 5 people who have 6 out of 7 correct, but we only see the first 5. And then later I will show you after the quiz is over, you can see also more of the results. Oh wow, that's a close race. So the last question, one more we have, that one can decide whether we have 1 winner or 2 winners. We already know Peter is in the final, but we don't know how many finalists we will have and how many champions we will have. Let us have a look at question number 8. Question number 8. If you light a lamp for someone else, it will also brighten your own path, doesn't it? If you light a lamp for someone else, it also makes the path around yourself bright. It shines everywhere. Is this from the Buddha? What do you think? Now's the time to bring in the answers. Last opportunity. If you light a lamp for someone, it also brightens your own path. Is this from the Buddha? Five more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's the end of it. Let us see the results. Wow, a close call again. Almost cannot look. 56% say it's not from the Buddha, but 44% say it is. I wonder how our leaders have answered, whether they got this one right also. It is a nice quote, I have to say. And the correct answer is answer B. Even though it is a nice quote, it's not from the Buddha. Actually, it comes or may come from one of the works of Nichiren Daishonin. The original is found in a passage known as the 3 Virtues of Food, which is a fragment of a letter written by Nichiren around 1278, so quite a while back. And there it says, if you give food to others, one will improve one's own lot, one's own fate, just as, for example, if one lights a fire for others, one will brighten one's own way. So there this idea comes from. So what we have had above is different translation, but it comes from the same original, and often it's attributed to the Buddha, and then Nichiren's followers regard him as a Buddha, actually, Nichiren himself. But then normally here in our context, early Buddhism, Theravada, when we see a quote, when we say, is it from the Buddha, we mean Sakyamuni Buddha or Siddhartha, not any previous Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. So the founder of the current dispensation. So yeah, no, it's not from him. So it's interesting that this quote is suggesting here that you can brighten also, it's also good for yourself if you support somebody else. In this case, by the simile of giving light. It reminds me also a bit on this act of sharing of merit that we Buddhists always do, where you do something good and then you share the merit with your past relatives, passed away relatives and friends, and all beings. Sometimes the question comes up, how is it? How can we give away our merit to others? Is this even possible? Because karma, we're actually owners of our karma. The Buddha explains, I am the owner of my karma. I am heir to my karma, born of my karma, and I will reap and ripen the results. So how can we then share merit with others? Well, both is correct. We can share merit, but still be owners of our own karma. In that, when we share merit, actually, we don't give away our karma. Like a piece of cake, if you share a piece with somebody else, then you have less, and he has it now. So if you have a birthday party with 10 people, and you divide up the cake in 10 pieces, well, you better have to be quick, because they might be gone very quickly. But with sharing merit, it's not the same. Sharing merit does not reduce. It's the same with the simile of the lamp. Even so, it's not from the Buddha. But the sharing of merit works in such a way in that when we have done something good, something wholesome, then we can reflect on that and invite other people to rejoice in that, to express the appreciation of those wholesome acts. But normally we do that by saying sadhu, well done. Sadhu means good, well done. So in this way, we can invite another person to rejoice in our wholesome act. And really the good karma that that person gets is the good karma that comes from his own rejoicing. So the one person has to hear and understand, oh, we are doing a sharing of merit. So if he hears and understands and rejoices happily, say sadhu, for example, then he can get married. Not get married to find a spouse and marry, but then he get a share of the merit, you can say. But if he doesn't hear about it, doesn't know about it, or a person is reborn in a plane of existence where they cannot participate in that, then also they cannot get married also, because they can't hear about it. But certain spirits, certain ghosts, certain betas, they can rejoice in that, and they can improve their well-being on account of that. So in this way, the marriage is actually not given away. You don't give away your good karma. You only invite somebody else to rejoice. And when that person rejoices, he or she creates fresh good karma for herself by rejoicing in your sharing. That's the mechanics behind it. But I really like this quote that we have here. If you light a lamp for someone, it also brightens your own path. It is a nice image. And the principle is definitely true. And it's interesting. There's so many wise teachings and sayings. It doesn't mean just because they are not from the Buddha that they are wrong. Not at all. But it's still important to know what comes from the Buddha and what is not. So I think by now we should really have a winner. Wow, I'm excited. I wonder also, will it be a young person or an old person who has won? I can see the result already. 7 out of 7. Huh? Why only 7 out of 7? We have 8 questions. Okay, 8 out of 8. Now here we see it. 8 out of 8. Congratulations, Peter Yu. But then also very closely followed by Eric's son, 7 out of 8. SC, Doreen Lim, Yuan Lim, and more. Many have 7 out of 8 correct. That's amazing. I think the next quiz I have to make more difficult. 7 out of 8. But I'm sure not everybody had so many correct answers. As you can see, learning the Dhamma can actually be quite fun. But probably you've also noticed it's actually not so easy to always know for sure what is it that the Buddha did teach and what is it that he did not teach. So then the question can arise, how to decide? How can we find out? Because you cannot always come to me and ask me, Ariyadhammika Bande, is this from the Buddha or not? So how can we find out? How do I find out even? Actually, the Buddha laid down a system for that already, to decide what is the Buddha's teaching and not. And this is enshrined and written down in the Mahapadesa Sutta, Anguttara Nikaya, Book of Force, Discourse number 180. I will read out a passage for you about how to find out whether something is the Buddha's teaching or not. It's a very important thing to understand, and it will help us for a long time in the future. So I leave away the introduction to this sutta, and we go straight into it. Here, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu might say, in the presence of the Blessed One, of the Buddha, I heard this. In the presence of the Buddha, I learned this. This is the Dhamma, this is the Vinaya, the discipline. This is the teaching. So if somebody says he heard something directly from the Buddha, nowadays it's not possible because he would have to be very old. But at the Buddha's time, that was possible. If somebody's made a claim, he heard a teaching from the Buddha, then that bhikkhu's statement should neither be approved nor rejected. Without approving or rejecting it, you should thoroughly learn those words and phrases and check for them in the discourses and seek them in the discipline. And then, if you check for them in the discourses, in the suttas and the Vinaya, and you find that they are included among the discourses and they are seen, if you see that they are not included in the discourses, not found in the suttas and also not found in the Vinaya, then you should draw the conclusion. Surely This is not the word of the Blessed One, the Arahant, the perfectly enlightened one. It has been badly learned by this bhikkhu. Thus, you should discard it as not the Buddha's words. So, what's the method? If somebody says he has heard a teaching directly from the Buddha, compare it with the other teachings that we have from the Buddha, as we find them in the suttas and the Vinaya for the monks. And if it's found there, then we can draw the conclusion. That's what the next paragraph says. If when you check for them in the discourses and seek them in the discipline, and you see that they're included among them, then you should draw the conclusion, this is the word of the Blessed One. It has been well learned by the bhikkhu. So if it's not included, then we should reject it. But if it is included, then we can accept it. And then the same applies if at a certain residence, a sangha is dwelling with elders and prominent monks. You can imagine some monasteries, they have very senior monks, 50 vasa, 60 vasa old, very learned, well practiced. And then such a monk says, the Buddha's teaching is like this. The Buddha's teaching is like that. Can we just trust it because he's very old? Or maybe he has a lot of disciples? Can we just trust that? Is that reliable? Well, the Sutta says, if there's such an elder who is well learned, what should we do? The same as before. Look whether the teaching is contained in the suttas or the Vinaya. If it is, we accept it. If not, we put it aside. The same if within a residence, several elder bhikkhus are dwelling, learned experts in the Dhamma, the Vinaya, and the outlines, the Matika. Again, the same reaction the Buddha recommends. So what does that mean? It means it doesn't really matter who says it, whether it's a very senior monk, or a small novice, a layperson, or you read it in a Buddha quote. What we should do is compare it with the Dhamma as we have it in our texts and scriptures nowadays. And if it's contained there in the suttas, in the Vinaya, we can accept it. And if not, then the Buddha says we should put it aside. But it's actually also not so easy, is it? Because in order to know what is included in the suttas, you would have to read them first, isn't it? Otherwise, how can we judge and say, no, it's not there? So we would have to be very widely read also. And I also understand not everybody has that time. But by gradually exposing and reading and listening to Dhamma talks, especially for monks who use the suttas a lot, and that will help us to acquire more and more understanding. So it is very important to regularly read the discourses, and then you will become more and more able to identify what is a real quote from the Buddha and what is not. And the benefit of that is not only so that you can win in the Dhamma quiz, but the main benefit is so that you can put it into practice in your own life and practice the teachings that we know will yield and result in great benefits. So by knowing a teaching comes from the real Buddha, then we know we have the real Dhamma. And the person can become a real Sangha member, a member of the Arya Sangha, which is the third gem. So whenever you hear somebody quote the Buddha, better ask for a reference. And I know some people, they like to read, others don't. But it's kind of funny, you know, among us Buddhists, sometimes I find that not many Buddhists can really quote from the scriptures. But you go to the West or even here in Malaysia, many of the Muslims, you ask them a question, they can quote you directly from the Quran, isn't it? Surah so-and-so, they can give you a quote directly in the Quran, it says this and that. And then you go to a Christian, he will pull out the Bible, show you the Bible and says, here, Jesus like this, Jesus like that. But then you meet a Buddhist, ask him, what did the Buddha say? I don't know. But I have to say to our defense also, the Bible is one book, the Quran is only one book, but the Tipitaka is 45 books. That's a lot. And it's understandable. You can't memorize all of that. You can't even read probably everything. But we can limit ourselves over time to the core teachings. As it says here, especially the discourses, they are contained within 5, 6 books. There's some smaller books that you could add in from the Kuttaka Nikaya. But if you read just the first 4 books, you have a very thorough understanding already of the Buddha's teachings. The long discourses, the middle-length discourses, the connected discourses, and the numerical discourses. And for me personally, when I read the suttas, to me it almost does not even matter which sutta. Even if I close my eye, I could just blindly open and start reading any page. It always tastes in a certain way. The flavor of the Dhamma is a certain flavor. There's a simile where the Buddha says, just like the whole ocean, the great ocean, the sea, the whole ocean is of one single taste, the taste of salt. Likewise, the Buddha's teaching is of one single taste, the taste of liberation. So, and by doing that from time to time, you can identify more and more easily what is the Buddha's teachings and what is not. And in this way, you protect not only others, but also especially yourself, because you can distinguish. And you can also become a protector of the sasana by pointing out, actually, this teaching is not from the Buddha, this teaching is. So in this way also you can maintain the longevity and prolong the longevity of the sasana by identifying fake quotes or sayings that somebody says is from the Buddha, which is not. But as I said earlier, it's not sufficient just to know a lot, you also have to put it into practice. So by putting these practices and teachings into practice in our daily life, both on the meditation cushion, on the workplace, family life, then that's what they are meant for. Yeah. But on top of that, it's also nice if you can win a Dhamma quiz and get a high score at a Dhamma quiz. That's a side effect of having read and learned a lot of Dhamma. Okay, I think we're running out of time. I'm very happy to see the results and also quite a number of participants in this quiz today. And I hope there was something interesting for everyone to learn, and I offer that for your reflection today. I would like to hand over to our MC.
Thank you, Bhante. I think that was a very interesting 1.5 hours that we've had here at the Buddhist Ariyadhammika page. I think we had quite a number of people on the live audience, but I think we had about 49 participants at the quiz itself. I'm glad to know I'm following the middle path. I was number 19, so I'm there.
Oh, it's easy.
So I kept to the middle path and I made sure I was in the 19th. Anyway, for all of you who actually followed us this evening, I think we're all very grateful to Bhante. But before Bhante leaves us, we would like to invite Bhante to conduct the Anumodana. Bhante, would you kindly do that, please?
We can do that together, yes. So we have listened to the Dhamma and had the opportunity to reflect, contemplate on the Dhamma. And by doing that, we have also accumulated a lot of goodness and merit. And not only that, earlier during the day, we also already had many opportunities for wholesome actions. And now is the time you can bring that back in your memory. And we can mentally invite our departed relatives and friends to rejoice in the goodness and the merit that we have acquired and accumulated. So I invite you first, hold on for a few seconds, and you can recollect some of those good deeds that you have done today, that we will then share with our departed relatives, friends, and all beings. Okay. Let us recite together. We can do it line by line. I will do one line first, and then for you at home, I will give you some time, and you can just repeat after me. You can see on the screen the text. Many of you will be familiar with it already, and we can do this together. Okay? So let us share merit with all our departed relatives, friends, and all beings. Please repeat after me. Idang me nyatinang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo Idang no nyatinang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo Idam vo nyatinang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo Ettavata cha amhihi Sampadang punya sampadang Sabbe satta anumodantu Sabba sampatti siddhya. Okay, and let us also make an aspiration towards Nibbana, so that the good deeds that we have done will also support us on the path to liberation. Please repeat after me again. Idang me punyang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Idang me punyang nibbanassa paccaya hotu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So thank you, Bante. We have come to the end of this evening's sharing.
You're welcome.
And on behalf of the Committee of Management and also the monks of the Buddhist Mahavihara, let me take this opportunity to thank you once again for organizing this very interesting Dhamma quiz. And as I've noticed on the comments section, there were many of them who actually requested us to have another session with you sometime in the near future. So they thoroughly enjoyed this evening. They found it a different way of learning the Buddha Dhamma. So I think we'll have to consider organizing another version sometime soon, Bante.
Yeah, it seems that currently with this pandemic, and COVID-19, it seems many of us are being grounded again anyway. You cannot go out of your house anymore. Who knows how the future will play out? Or we can do many Dhamma quizzes in the future, it seems.
Yeah. So I think because it's the first time we've done it here, and I think many of them have participated for the first time, and they found it so interesting. Unlike a one-way session where the monk gives the sermon and they listen and ask the Q&A later, I think this is a bit more interactive, as you mentioned. I think that's why they found it so interesting. So also, we'd like to thank our sponsors this evening for having sponsored this evening's session, and also to all the audience who had participated, and to the quiz participants as well. Thank you for so much for participating and having. I hope you've been enlightened by this fake or real quotes, Buddha quotes that Bante have prepared for us. And I hope you have learned something from this evening session. And we hope to have Bante with us soon. Hopefully next month even, if Bante is free, to have with us another sharing on the Dhammadana series here at the Buddhist Mahavihara. So with that, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank once again everyone. A pleasant evening and a good night. Sadhu.
Night, everyone.